Okay, so in this video, we're going to begin to tackle just vitamins and introduce what some of these are. And then in later videos, we're actually going to look at each of these individual vitamins, both the fat soluble and the water soluble, our B vitamins, and A, D, E, K, all the things we'll look at. So in this video, again, we're just going to introduce vitamins. Vitamins are unique here because we've started looking at the macronutrients. We started in fats and carbohydrates and proteins, things that are nutritionally essential in your diet. Well, as we get to vitamins and minerals, we often term these micronutrients. Now, in the sense that generally these are going to be much smaller in dose. In other words, when we talk about these macronutrients, we generally refer to them in grams, grams of carbohydrate. But when we talk about vitamins and minerals, honestly, we almost never talk about grams. We usually talk about milligrams, sometimes even micrograms. So the size of these is a lot less, and some of these, as we'll see, have very little of any caloric value. Having said that, as we'll see, vitamins and minerals, as we'll talk about later on, have a huge, huge function in the body. So let's dig in. Now, maybe you're like me, but here's my first understanding of vitamins. So I'm a little kid, want to grow up big and strong, and my mom made me take these Flintstones vitamins. They were yummy, came in all different colors. Barney was my favorite. I was just a big Barney fan. And so I didn't know what these were. I didn't understand what vitamins did or their function in the body, but they were yummy and they left my tongue kind of purple. So they were awesome. So I tried to take like 3 or 4 at a time. And that was kind of my, beginning into vitamins. Well, vitamins are much more than just yummy and chewable and all that. They play numerous roles in the body. And as we'll see just from this picture, literally in almost every system in the body, nervous system, muscular, renal, digestive, central nervous system, skin, bone, vitamins are going to play a massive role. Now, we'll see that they tend to have very specific functions in a lot of these areas. The point being is that we really need vitamins. They are crazy important. So let's go to some basics. If we want a basic definition of vitamins, simply this, is that they are organic compounds that generally form some specific chemical function or process in the body. Now, as we'll see, these can really vary by vitamin. Some are somewhat broad, but most are going to have very specific functions. There are some generalities in some of these. So for example, some vitamins, tend to play a role as coenzymes in reactions. This may be in metabolism. This may be, for example, in glycolysis, or actually the Krebs cycle. We will see enzymes play a huge role, especially some of the B vitamins. We'll get to that in another video. Some of these also play a role as antioxidants. Vitamin C, vitamin E, we'll talk about those more in depth, which is a huge area of research right now. Some of these are very specific to like bone growth or cell growth, as we'll see. And so vitamins have a neat function, often as enzymes or coenzymes in various different processes in the body. We are going to tackle specifically 2 groups of enzymes, fat soluble and water soluble. And we'll see the differences in these. But a couple of things just to understand about vitamins. When we talk about vitamins have no caloric value. Now, that doesn't mean vitamin supplements don't have caloric value. As we've mentioned before, oftentimes supplements or powders or things like that have other things like sweeteners or sugars added. So we're not going to say that vitamin supplements have 0 calories. That may not necessarily be true, but the vitamins themselves do. And likewise, in foods we eat, often these vitamins are inactive. They're precursors in foods. And that's key to understand, especially in some of these vitamins. We'll see this in minerals as well. Cooking can actually alter the vitamin content, but we'll get to that later on. Another thing that's unique about these is that these are organic. Now remember, organic means they're carbon-based, but that is key for us, especially, again, in cooking. Some vitamins like vitamin A, which is very common in green vegetables and peppers and pumpkin, things like that. their availability when those foods are cooked, which we often cook those, actually differs than from when they're raw. And so understanding that vitamins are organic can be a huge deal when it comes to their availability to the body. And again, these tend to be in small doses. Again, these are not going to be in grams, they'll be in very small doses. So here's the groups we're going to look at. We're going to look at fat soluble and water soluble. I'm not going to ask you to necessarily memorize each one of these, though we were going to go through each one of these key vitamins, 13 of them. So you'll know them fairly well. Best way to remember fat soluble is ADEK. You come up with some acronym for that. All day eat kale. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. So remember that one. All day eat kale. There's your fat soluble. And your water soluble is all your B vitamins and vitamin C. Now let's get to some specifics of how these are different. And this is actually some key distinctions here. Here I have a bunch listed for you. I'm just going to focus on some of the big ones. One, as you can kind of tell by its name, water soluble vitamins are going to be vitamins soluble in water. In other words, these vitamins will flow freely in the blood specifically. And so these, your B vitamins, your C vitamins, tend to be transported through blood fairly easily. Also, because they're water soluble, they are also easily excreted in the urine. So for that reason, as we'll see, water soluble vitamins, I think it's on your list here. Anytime we have excess of these vitamins, they are fairly easy to excrete. So because of that, deficiencies, toxicities can be a little different in this group. It's really hard to have a toxicity of some of these because if you take a lot in, you just excrete a lot of them. However, it can be an issue to have deficiencies of these. Because water-soluble vitamins we generally don't store well, we need to continually take these in. This is why, for example, vitamin C. Having a deficiency in vitamin C centuries ago was a huge deal. Vitamin C is found in fruits. Fruits are generally very watery. And fruits, although they grow really well on land, generally don't grow well in, the ocean. And so if you're a sailor or a ship on a boat for months on end, say you're, coming to discover America, and you don't have fruits, it's very easy to develop a deficiency in vitamin C. And years ago, that was a huge deal. We call that scurvy. Nowadays, a little different. But that's an example of how deficiencies in water-soluble vitamins can potentially be a bigger issue. Another way these are unique is that when we talk about water-soluble vitamins, not only are they absorbed more directly in the blood, they're transported more freely in the blood. Usually, these don't have any precursors. In other words, these can easily engage in their function when they're absorbed. And this is key, especially with the B vitamins when it comes to its large role in ATP production. And we'll see that with B vitamins. They have a fairly sizable role, quite a few of them in that, and a key being that they're water soluble. Fat soluble are going to be different. These, because they're fat soluble, are generally found in foods that are more oils and fats. Now that's a big generality. We'll find that a lot of these are not necessarily that. Because they're fat soluble, they are transported in the blood differently. They require proteins. But because they are fat soluble, we generally store them a lot better, which is great. So developing deficiencies of these generally doesn't happen. I want to say generally because they definitely happen, but it's generally not as severe as we see with water-soluble vitamins. So understand the difference between fat soluble, water soluble, to be able to distinguish between these two. Now, the last thing I want to go through in understanding vitamins is understanding what we call the DRI. This is the daily recommended intake. Now, years ago, we would call this the RDA, and now here in the 21st century, we've given it this different name. And all the DRI is according to the USDA, the recommended value, minimum value required for each vitamin. Now, in this class, I'm not going to make you memorize those. One, because it's just hard. Two, because these numbers often change year by year depending on research and things we're learning about these vitamins. So because of that, I want you to just understand what the DRI is. On top of the DRI, we also have the UL, which is the upper limit. And this is a value a little bit different. That's going to be what the USDA considers the maximum amount of value you can have for this, maximum amount of this vitamin you can have before you start to see issues with toxicities. And this is key because, as we'll see with some vitamins, it's fairly easy to get a lot of these. Vitamin C is a common one in the American diet. Most of us have upwards of 200% of the DRI for vitamin C. And it's just because we tend to drink a lot of fruity juices and things like that. However, because the UL of that is fairly high, it's a water-soluble vitamin, we can excrete that. We generally don't deal with massive issues of toxicity. Other vitamins, that's not the case. So just understand what the DRI is and the UL, how those are different. And these will become key when we talk about, for each of these vitamins, toxicities and deficiencies. Okay, so in our next video, we're going to start out with our fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. So take a look at that. See you next video.